The body that speaks in silence. He looks at her body and thinks he understands. But something in her stays distant, hidden. He sees skin, curves, motion, but not the language that lives beneath them. The quiet, ancient code her soul still speaks, even when her lips say nothing at all. Every woman carries a story inside her body, not the kind you can read with your eyes, but the kind that breathes between her movements, beneath her stillness. Carl Jung once wrote that the body is a living symbol, an expression of the unconscious, the place where the forgotten becomes visible. So when you look at her body, you are not looking at flesh. You are looking at generations of memory, what she has loved, what she has lost, what she's still protecting. Her body is not decoration, it's revelation, the map of her psyche drawn in muscle and breath. And if you learn to see it, really see it, you will realize that she has been speaking to you long before she ever said a word, because her body never lies. It remembers everything your mind wants to forget. The hips, where safety and freedom collide. When I look at her hips, I don't see shape, I see history. The way she walks tells me what kind of world she learned to survive in. Some women carry the earth in their hips. They move slowly, as if every step must be certain, as if the ground itself depends on them. Their hips seem to whisper, "I will hold you. I will not break." These are the women who built homes. From the ruins of other people's storms, they learned that safety isn't given. It's made brick by brick, heartbeat by heartbeat. When you touch them, you feel warmth, not fire, but the soft ember that never goes out. They are the hearths of the world, and yet, behind that steadiness is a quiet exhaustion, the weight of having to hold too much for too long. You will sense it in the way her body tightens when you talk about leaving, not because she's possessive, but because she's tired of watching love walk away. If you try to shake her world to feel alive, you'll only remind her of the earthquakes she already lived through. She doesn't need adventure. She needs peace that doesn't disappear the moment she closes her eyes. And when she finally feels that peace, when her body finally believes it's safe, you'll notice something beautiful. Her hips soften. She stops holding herself together. She starts breathing again. Then there are the other women, the ones who move like wind. Their hips are narrow, unanchored, as if their bodies were designed to chase horizons. They walk as though the world is a question, and their bones are the answer still forming. There's no heaviness in them, only direction. Freedom has shaped them. Sometimes pain has too. You can't cage a woman like this. She's been running long before she met you, from the smallness of expectations, from the cages disguised as love. When you hold her too tightly, you'll feel her body stiffen, not because she doesn't want you, but because her nervous system still confuses closeness with danger. She carries a memory of being trapped, of once giving everything and losing herself inside someone else's story. Her hips are her rebellion, her way of saying, "I will not be possessed again." And yet, if you stay not to capture her, but to understand her rhythm, you'll see her change. One day she'll exhale, and her body will rest in your presence without fear. That's when the wind becomes a gentle breeze, and freedom finally learns how to stay. Most men never notice these things. They only see movement, not meaning. But if you pay attention, if you stop looking and start feeling, you'll sense the entire archetypal spectrum living inside her. The earth that longs to root and the air that longs to roam both want the same thing, to feel safe enough to be what they are. And the moment she feels that safety beside you, Her hips will tell you before her words ever do. Her walk will change, her rhythm will soften, her body will begin to trust you. Because when a woman's hips relax, it's not just a sign of comfort, it's her unconscious saying, I am home. That's the paradox of the feminine body. It carries both stillness and motion, safety and freedom, nurture and wildness. And every time you touch her, you're not just touching her skin, you're touching the conversation between those two worlds. The question is never, what kind of woman is she? The question is, what part of me does she awaken? Because the truth is, you don't really see her hips. You see your own longing reflected in their sway, your desire for home, your fear of change, your unfinished dance between control and surrender. And when you realize that, something in you shifts. You stop watching her body, you start listening to it, and that is when the real intimacy begins. The chest, the compass of emotion and the shadow of nurturing. There's a rhythm inside her chest that no one ever truly listens to. You can see it rise and fall, the gentle wave of breath beneath her shirt, but you rarely feel what it's saying, because her chest isn't just flesh, it's the compass of her emotional world. It points not north or south, but toward the places her heart once trusted and the places it now fears to go. Some women breathe like oceans. Their emotions move through them freely, swelling, retreating, returning again. They love without calculation. They give without pause. Every heartbeat is a small act of courage, but that openness comes at a cost. It means the world can reach them too easily. A harsh word, a cold silence, and the waves inside them begin to storm. When she feels loved, her chest expands. You can see it, literally, in her breath. She opens to life like sunlight hitting water. But when she feels unseen, her body folds in on itself, shoulders tightening like closing petals. Carl Jung once said, "What we do not make conscious appears in our lives as fate." And for many women, their chest carries that fate, the story of how love once hurt them and how they've learned to protect the ache beneath. You can see it in the posture, in the way she crosses her arms when you speak too sharply, in the way she turns away when words cut too deep. Her body isn't rejecting you, it's remembering. Every contraction is a message. I want to feel safe here, but something in me still doesn't. There are women who live close to their hearts, whose emotions flow out easily, like a melody. When they care, you'll know it. When they hurt, you'll feel it. They're the embodiment of what Jung called eros, connection, empathy, life through relationship. But there are also women whose chest has learned restraint. They don't wear their hearts on the surface anymore. They learned somewhere along the way that emotion can be dangerous. That tenderness invites disappointment, so they build walls around the very place that was meant to be open. And when you touch them, you can feel that tension, a subtle resistance beneath the warmth, not rejection, just protection, a reflex born from years of giving too much. To love a woman's chest is to love her story of care. It's to hold the place where she has both nurtured and been emptied. It's to touch the same space where she once carried everyone else's pain and forgot to save a little tenderness for herself. Her chest remembers the nights she cried quietly so no one would hear, the times she said, "I'm fine," while her breath grew shallow and her ribs became armor. You see, when a woman says she's strong, it often means her chest has grown tired of breaking. Strength, for her, isn't power. It's endurance, a long exhale she hasn't yet taken. And if you listen closely, really listen, you'll notice that what softens her isn't logic, isn't reassurance, isn't your words. It's your presence. When you stop fixing her and start feeling her, something happens. Her body begins to believe that it's safe again. Her breath deepens. Her shoulders drop. The walls she built slowly dissolve, not because you pushed them down, but because she finally realizes you're not here to hurt her. That's the secret of the chest. It doesn't open to explanation. It opens to safety. When she exhales deeply next to you, when her heartbeat slows, when her chest rests against yours, without hesitation, that's her body saying, I trust you enough to let my soul breathe again. But there's a shadow hidden here too. The shadow of the nurturer, the woman who gives endlessly until she disappears, who carries everyone else's sorrow until she forgets her own joy, who mistakes self-sacrifice for love and exhaustion for devotion. She has been praised for her kindness, but punished for her boundaries, loved for her care, but abandoned when she needed it back. Her chest becomes both altar and grave, the place where love lives and dies repeatedly. And yet, when she begins to awaken, when she finally turns that care inward, her heart beats differently, not out of obligation, but out of authenticity. That's when her chest no longer asks, who can I hold? But instead whispers, who will hold me? And that shift, that moment when she chooses herself, without closing to the world, is what Jung might call individuation, the birth of a love that no longer breaks her to exist. So the next time you see her chest rise and fall, don't mistake it for breath. It's a compass. It's pointing toward the place. Her soul still longs to rest. And if she ever breathes easier beside you, know that it's not your charm or your words. It's your stillness, the kind that says, you don't have to carry it alone anymore. Because when her heart feels safe, her entire body follows. And that is how the feminine begins to heal. Not through grand gestures, but through the quiet permission to simply breathe again. The voice, how her truth was silenced and how it finds its way back. There's a kind of silence that doesn't come from the absence of sound, but from the absence of safety. For many women, that silence began long before they lost their voice. It began the first time they were told to be nice, to not overreact, to lower their tone. It began the first time truth felt dangerous. Her voice carries more than words. It carries memory. The entire nervous system speaks through it. Every tremor, every hesitation, every held breath is the echo of something that once couldn't be said. When she speaks softly, it's not always gentleness. Sometimes it's fear disguised as grace. Sometimes it's the body remembering what it cost her ancestors to be heard. Carl Jung once wrote that the soul becomes visible in the voice. But what if that soul was never allowed to speak? You can hear it in the pitch, the pauses, the way her sentences shrink when she doubts herself. Her throat tightens, as if holding back not just words, but lifetimes. There are women whose voices sound like light, high, airy, delicate, and men often mistake it for fragility. But beneath that softness lives a story. The little girl who learned that being pleasing was safer than being powerful. She speaks gently, not because she wants to, but because somewhere deep inside, a part of her still believes that loudness equals rejection. So she coats her truth in sweetness, softens her tone, swallows her anger, before it ever reaches her lips, and the world calls her kind. But kindness that costs you your truth isn't kindness, it's survival. Her healing begins the first time she lets her voice shake and doesn't apologize for it. The first time she says no, and doesn't rush to explain. The first time she speaks and realizes that nothing terrible happens after, that's when the child in her throat finally exhales. Then there are women whose voices move differently, low, steady, resonant, like a river that knows its own depth. People call it confidence, sensuality, command, but most of the time, it's not something they were born with. It's something they fought for. It's the tone that forms. When a woman has been silenced enough times to decide she will never whisper again, you can hear both power and fatigue in her voice, as if every word must carry its own protection. She doesn't just speak, she guards her truth, because in a world that once punished her for being loud, she has learned to speak like a weapon and a prayer at once. And yet, even the strongest voice hides tenderness. When she lowers her tone at night, when her words soften mid-sentence, that's the sound of her soul remembering. It's safe to rest. It's safe to not prove anything. It's safe to just be heard. Every voice you hear is a map of two forces inside her, the eros that wants connection, and the shadow that fears exposure. When she speaks too little, the shadow wins. When she shouts to be believed, the shadow still wins. But when her words come from the quiet certainty of self, without needing to persuade or defend, that's her awakening. That's her psyche finding its center again. It's what Jung called individuation, when the voice no longer seeks approval, but truth. If you ever find yourself beside a woman as she speaks, listen differently. Don't listen for meaning, listen for vibration, for the tremor beneath the words. That's where her real story lives. Because sometimes, the most beautiful sound you will ever hear isn't her laughter, or her whisper, or even her "I love you." It's the sound of her truth returning home, the moment her body realizes she doesn't have to hide it anymore. When her throat opens, and her breath deepens, and her voice finally fills the room, that's not just expression, that's resurrection. And maybe that's what healing truly is, not becoming softer or louder, but finally speaking in the frequency of your own soul, the one that was always there, beneath the silence, waiting to be remembered. The lips, pleasure, shame, and the inner child. There's a moment when she almost speaks, almost smiles, almost lets joy spill from her mouth, and then she stops. You can see it, a small hesitation in the corner of her lips, as if something inside whispers, "Careful, remember what happened the last time you wanted too much." Her lips are the doorway between her inner and outer worlds. Every word, every sigh, every kiss crosses that threshold. It's where desire meets permission, where truth meets fear. In human psychology, we say the body remembers trauma, but Jung would say the body remembers meaning, and her lips, they remember everything she's ever been told about being too much, too loud, too honest, too sensual, too alive. So she learns to tighten them, to hold in her laughter when it feels too free, to smile politely instead of fully, to kiss carefully, not passionately, because deep down, her nervous system still confuses joy with danger. There are women whose lips are soft and open, who laugh from the belly, whose voices melt into the air like warmth, and when they love, they don't ration it, they pour. But somewhere along the way, someone taught them that pleasure must be earned, that a good woman doesn't enjoy too deeply, doesn't taste too much, doesn't crave without shame. And so, she learns to split herself into the woman who feels and the woman who hides the feeling. You can see both in her smile, the freedom that wants to dance and the fear that wants to disappear. Every time she bites her lip before speaking, somewhere inside her, a small girl still wonders if her joy will be punished. She remembers the first time someone mocked her laugh, called it too loud, or the time she was told to cover her mouth while smiling because it's not ladylike. That's where repression begins. Not in her body, but in her innocence. The child who loved life too honestly was slowly taught to filter it, and that lesson became instinct. Now her adult self smiles with control, while her inner child still waits for permission to be delighted again. In Jungian terms, this is where the shadow of pleasure lives, the part of the psyche that was exiled when society decided that the feminine joy was something to fear. For centuries, the feminine was worshipped for her ability to nurture, but punished for her ability to enjoy. She could give life but not feel it. She could love but not want. So her body divided, heart up, desire down, and her lips caught between both became the quiet battleground. That's why a kiss is never just a kiss. It's a reunion of what was once separated, love and desire, soul and body. When she kisses without fear, she's not just expressing affection, she's rewriting history. She's telling every woman before her, we are allowed to feel again. But her lips can also reveal another story. When they press tight, when words die before leaving her mouth, it's not coldness, it's containment. A lifetime of holding back feelings that were too heavy, too messy, too misunderstood. She's learned to survive by control, to manage the chaos inside, by keeping the surface calm. But what looks like control is often exhaustion in disguise, because holding back joy takes the same energy as holding back tears. Sometimes, when she finally cries, the tears come through her mouth, not her eyes. Her voice breaks open, and you can hear the release she never allowed herself. That's not weakness, that's liberation. It's her psyche remembering. That feeling is not a sin. It's her shadow stepping into the light. To touch her lips is to touch her history with pleasure. To kiss her deeply is to remind her body that joy doesn't have to end in punishment, that she can feel without losing herself. That desire can be sacred, because when the feminine heals, pleasure becomes prayer, and her lips, once silent, become the altar where life itself is worshipped again. So, when she laughs freely, when her lips curve without fear, when her mouth opens not for apology, but for truth, that's not seduction, that's resurrection, the return of a voice that was once silenced for being too alive. And in that moment, when she finally lets the fullness of her being spill through her smile, you'll realize she was never asking for attention. She was asking for permission. Permission to exist as she is, unfiltered, untamed, unashamed. And now, she doesn't need to ask anymore. The scent, the soul's signature. There are things about a woman you can see, and then there are things about her that you can only feel. Her scent belongs to the second kind. It isn't perfume. It isn't even smell. It's recognition, a signal written in the invisible language of the soul. You catch it in passing, in the air after she leaves the room, on a pillow she once slept on, in the spaces where silence still carries her. And suddenly, your body remembers something your mind cannot name. It's not desire. It's not nostalgia. It's something older, a whisper from the collective unconscious, the field Jung spoke of, where all human memories sleep side by side, waiting to be awakened by the right vibration. When you are drawn to her scent, it's not chemistry, it's symmetry. Two nervous systems recognizing. They have danced before. You can try to rationalize it, to explain attraction through hormones, pheromones, psychology, but none of that captures why her scent feels like home. Because home isn't a place, it's a frequency, and sometimes your soul catches it in the air around her. That faint trace of something ancient, something safe, something that says, "You've been here before." For some women, their scent carries warmth, like bread baking or the skin after sunlight. It speaks of nurture, of fireside laughter, of constancy. For others, it's wilder, sharp, magnetic, untamed. It reminds you of rain-soaked earth or smoke rising after a storm. Their essence doesn't comfort you. It wakes you up. It calls something feral inside you to remember its own wilderness. And perhaps that's the point. Her scent reveals not who she is, but what part of you still sleeps. Every attraction is a mirror, every fragrance a message. When her scent lingers in your chest, what you're really inhaling is your own unfinished story. Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." The same is true for scent. It's alchemy, invisible transformation. Your body changes just by breathing her in, not because she's rare, but because something about her essence matches the code of your own becoming. That's why you can't fake it. Perfume can seduce the mind, but the soul knows the difference. Your psyche recognizes truth in the air. When it's right, you don't just want her, you need to be near her. Your whole being hums with the memory of something sacred, something that once felt like safety and wonder intertwined. And when it's wrong, you feel it instantly. A faint dissonance, a chemical no whispered beneath attraction. You can lie with words, pretend with actions, but your body never lies. It knows whether she's medicine or poison, long before your mind decides. Sometimes, when you truly love a woman, you fall in love with her scent before her smile, because her scent carries what her voice cannot say. The vibration of her honesty, the texture of her past, the way her nervous system settles in your presence. You feel it when she exhales near you, when her hair brushes your shoulder, when your faces hover close enough for the invisible to speak. If you listen closely, you'll notice that scent is emotion made physical. It's the soul translating its language into air. When you breathe her in, you aren't just sharing oxygen, you're sharing memory. You're inhaling the story of who she's been and exhaling the acceptance of who she is. That's why the scent of someone you've loved never really leaves. It lingers in the folds of time, in your clothes, in your dreams. It becomes a part of your internal landscape, a quiet ache that says, "She was here." Some call it chemistry, but Jung might call it synchronicity, two inner worlds colliding in perfect, inexplicable timing. Because when souls meet through scent, it isn't the body choosing the body. It's the unconscious calling itself home. So, if her scent makes you pause, makes you forget time, makes your heart ache without reason, don't rush to define it. Just breathe. Your body understands something your mind can't yet articulate. You're not smelling her, you're remembering her. And in that remembering, you are also remembering yourself. Because love, at its deepest, isn't about finding someone new. It's about meeting the part of your soul that's been searching for its own reflection through the scent of another. And when that happens, when her scent becomes the air you want to live in, you realize something sacred. It was never about attraction. It was about recognition. Her scent is her soul's signature, and yours is the echo that finally answered back. The tightness, the body's silent cry for safety. There's a moment, so subtle, most men never see it. A breath she holds without realizing. A small tightening under your hands, like her body remembering something before her mind does. And you think it's about pleasure, but it's not. It's about safety. Because a woman's body doesn't open from desire alone. It opens from trust. Every cell in her knows the difference between wanting you and feeling safe with you. That's the secret no one told you. Her body is not responding to you. It's responding to how she feels next to you. If she feels seen, her body breathes. If she feels safe, her muscles soften. If she feels loved without being used, her entire nervous system opens like a flower at dawn. But if there's even the faintest trace of danger, a raised voice, a rushed touch, a moment where she senses your mind drift away, her body will close. Not out of rejection, but out of ancient wisdom. It remembers every moment of fear her mother carried, every wound her grandmother never spoke of, every man who once took without presence. This is the collective memory that lives beneath her skin. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." This is how the body calls fate. Tightness is not her resistance to you. It's her resistance to the ghosts that came before you. When she tenses, it's her psyche saying, "I want to trust you, but my body still remembers when trust was betrayal." Her nervous system becomes a guardian, protecting her from the past. Even when the past is long gone, you might see her pull away after a moment of closeness and think she's distant, but she's not. She's flooded. Too much intensity, too much vulnerability, too much risk of breaking open. She's fighting a quiet battle between desire and defense, between wanting to surrender and needing to survive. Most men think a woman's tightness is a compliment to their ego, but they're wrong. It's not a measure of her passion. It's a measure of her nervous system. Her body contracts. When she's afraid, when she feels unseen, when she's trying to protect the part of herself that once trusted the wrong hands. You can't fix it by force. You can't hurry her healing. You can only create an environment where her body realizes it no longer needs to defend. That's what safety feels like. Not silence, not stillness, but the quiet softening that happens when a woman's body finally says, "I can rest here." And that's when the most beautiful alchemy happens. Not physical, but spiritual. The moment her body surrenders is not about sex. It's about remembrance. Her body remembers that it can be held without being taken, that it can be touched without losing its boundaries, that it can be seen without being judged. When that happens, the tension that once screamed fear turns into a whisper that says freedom. She melts not because you conquered her, but because she no longer has to protect herself from you. But there's a shadow here too, the one that lives inside many men, the one that equates dominance with desire, control with connection. That shadow doesn't want intimacy. It wants validation. It wants to feel powerful in the place where it once felt powerless. And every time that shadow takes the lead, a woman's body closes. Her heart senses it instantly, because her body can feel what your words are trying to hide. If you approach her with entitlement, she will stiffen. If you touch her without presence, she will flinch, even if she smiles. The body doesn't lie. It never learned how. But the healing begins the moment you realize you are not trying to open her, you are trying to unfrighten her. And that takes patience, stillness, humility. You touch her the way you'd touch something sacred, slowly, as if you're listening through your fingertips. You breathe deeper, not to arouse her, but to remind her that your energy is steady, that you can hold the storm if it comes, that she doesn't have to protect herself from your intensity, because when a woman feels safe in your presence, her body opens not for you, but toward life itself. In Jungian terms, this is the meeting point of Eros and the self, where physical intimacy becomes a vessel for transformation, not an exchange of pleasure, but an act of healing, the collective wound of separation. Her body becomes the altar of integration, where shadow meets light, where fear meets trust, where trauma turns into tenderness. And when you witness that, when you feel her body soften, not because she's conquered her fear, but because she no longer has to hide it, you'll understand what true intimacy really means. It's not passion, it's presence, not taking, but staying, because in the end, her tightness was never about anatomy. It was the body's language for one question: am I safe? And when your answer, in every gesture, in every breath, in every moment of stillness, is yes, you are, that's when she finally exhales. And that exhale, the one that releases years of guardedness, is the most sacred sound a man will ever hear. It's not lust, it's trust. It's her soul whispering, I remember what peace feels like again. Integration, reclaiming the feminine wisdom. There's a silence that comes after everything has been seen, not the silence of emptiness, but of understanding, the kind that fills a room after truth has finally been spoken. When you've looked at her body long enough to see the archetypes inside it, the hips that remember safety and freedom, the chest that breathes with love and fear, the voice that trembles between silence and truth, the lips that carry both pleasure and shame, the scent that whispers of recognition, and the body that tightens and softens like a prayer, you begin to understand something sacred. You were never reading her, you were reading life itself through her. For centuries, the feminine body has been treated as an object, something to be measured, possessed, decoded. But the truth is, her body has always been a teacher. It speaks the oldest language there is, the language of the unconscious. Carl Jung once said that what we repress doesn't disappear. It descends into the body, waiting to be lived through symbols. That's what the feminine body is, a living symbol, a map of the collective unconscious. Every curve, every breath, every shiver is the psyche in motion, the soul finding its way back to itself through sensation. And when you finally stop trying to understand her and begin to listen to her, you realize her body is not a mystery to solve. It's a mirror, reflecting the parts of you that have forgotten how to feel. Because everything you see in her, the wildness you crave, the tenderness you fear, the sensitivity you judge, the strength you admire, is already living inside you, waiting to be reclaimed. She is not the answer to your longing. She is the reminder of it, the external form of your own inner feminine, calling you home to your humanity. When you touch her gently, you are touching the part of yourself that longs for connection. When you silence her, you silence your own intuition. When you protect her, you protect your own innocence. Everything between you and her is the dance of shadow and light. Eros, searching for wholeness. The feminine doesn't need to be worshipped, she needs to be witnessed, not idealized into divinity, nor reduced into object, simply seen. Because when she is truly seen, without agenda, without fear, without projection, she stops performing, she starts returning. Her body becomes soft again. Her energy flows like it did before shame taught her to contract. That is when healing begins. Not just hers, but yours. Integration isn't a philosophy. It's a presence. It happens quietly, when you stop asking the body to prove something and start allowing it to speak, when you realize her tightness was never a challenge, but a question. Can I trust you? When you realize her scent wasn't temptation, but recognition. Have we met before in the soul? When you realize her voice wasn't weakness, but courage. Will you listen? When you realize her chest wasn't an invitation, but a compass. Can you hold what I feel? When you realize her hips weren't seduction, but foundation. Can you stand with me? Not above me? Each part of her body asks a question, and your answer isn't in words, it's in how you stay, how you breathe, how you see. In the language of Jung, this is individuation, when opposites stop fighting and begin to dance, when the masculine stops conquering the feminine and starts listening to her, when the feminine stops hiding her power and starts trusting her tenderness again. In that sacred balance, the body and soul reconcile. The war between control and surrender ends, and what remains is peace, the kind that doesn't have to prove itself anymore. So, when you look at her body now, see it as more than desire. See it as devotion. Every breath, every curve, every heartbeat is her psyche whispering, I am not here to be fixed. I am here to be felt. And when you feel her, not with your hands, but with your presence, you awaken the same wisdom sleeping in you. That's when the body stops being a battlefield and becomes what it was always meant to be, a bridge between the seen and the unseen, the known and the forgotten, the human and the divine. So breathe. Look again, listen with your whole being, because somewhere beneath her skin is the oldest language of all, the language of truth. And if you listen long enough, you will hear it say, I was never your mystery to solve. I was your mirror, waiting for you to remember yourself. If you're still here, take a breath. Let it be slow. Let it reach the places in you that forgot what softness feels like, because maybe, as you were listening, you realized it was never just about her, it was about you, the part of you that has been waiting to feel safe again, the part that's tired of performing strength, the part that's been whispering, quietly, I just want to be met where I am. We all carry that longing, to be seen without armor, to be touched without demand, to be heard without interruption. That's what the feminine asks of us, not to conquer her, but to listen, to stay long enough, for her body to remember it can trust again. And maybe that's also what your own soul is asking of you. If something in this spoke to you, if you recognized yourself somewhere in her story, tell me in the comments, what part of this journey stayed with you? The silence? The breath? The remembering? Your story might be the one someone else needs to hear tonight. And if you want to keep walking this path, the path of human psychology, shadow work, and inner healing, subscribe before you leave. Because what we're building here is not just a channel, it's a circle, a quiet corner of the internet, for people who are tired of small talk and ready for truth. Thank you for staying until the end, for breathing with me, for feeling with me. Now go gently, back into your life, back into your body, back into the sacred conversation between your soul and your skin. And the next time you look at someone you love, see them, not for what they show, but for what they silently carry, because that is where the real beauty lives.